What does out on parole mean? When someone is out on parole, then he or she has been incarcerated and has gained release prior to his or her maximum sentence. People who are released on parole are subject to obedience to the conditions of the parole, and may not be considered truly free. In many cases, parolees are subject to unannounced inspections of a home or apartment by authorities, and so being on parole might be considered akin to living in a state of reduced citizenship. The exact conditions of parole vary depending on national and local laws, and may including personalized conditions. Some locations do not have the option of parole, and in these places constraints are usually not placed on individuals after leaving prison. In many locations in the United States, a person may get out on parole for good behavior, although this alone is usually not enough to guarantee that parole will be granted. Having a job, demonstrating personal improvement, and having a place to live can all help a person get paroled. Once the parole board or other granting authority has approved the inmate's request, the parolee must then usually meet with a parole officer. This officer's job is to ensure that the conditions of the offender's parole are being obeyed, and to provide guidance and rehabilitation. Conditions for parole can vary widely, but almost always involve staying away from former victims, staying within a prescribed area, and adhering to a strict curfew. When a person is out on parole, it is usually required that he or she abstain from illegal substances and sometimes alcohol. It may also be required that the parolee stay employed, attend mandatory counseling, or attend medical appointments. Some sentences for crimes may involve permanent loss of certain rights beyond the parole period. While a parole is being served, the parolee may be required to voluntarily submit to search and seizure without cause or a warrant by any officer of the law or parole officer. Many locations require sex offenders to register with certain agencies upon attaining parole, and often they must register for life. It can be difficult for some people to meet the conditions of parole. Being out on parole in the same area in which the original crime was committed can constitute an enormous temptation. Additionally, it can be difficult to find employment or housing with a criminal record. Many parole officers recognize these difficulties and help parolees satisfy parole requirements. While a parole may constitute a loss of freedom for many, staying out of trouble while out on parole can often be the first step to staying out of jail for good.